Hello and welcome. Let's talk about Dying Light 2. So, after playing through the first one a handful of times, just enjoying that game a lot and going back and enjoying it again, playing through it, the world just feels great, alive. I think, the story is kind of an afterthought, but also I think a good, pretty linear story. And I think what we have here in Dying Light 2 is not that. This world, first of all, looks beautiful, plays beautiful. I don't think I had a single frame dip at all throughout my entire playthrough on the PS5. I think the problem here is I think the lack of interesting things to do in the world. I think it looks interesting, but then when you realize there's no real rhyme or reason to stop and, explore anything, and a lot of it is just built as flyover, and I think that's where the interest starts to kind of fade for me. And I think, wow, it looks cool. It's 15 years after everything, in Haran and the outbreak of the virus, but I think the world itself becomes very, I don't know, thrown together in my opinion. I said it looks visually great. It just there's the lack of interest, I think, after 5 hours of going around and then looking around at scenery, because you'll stop and look around and be like, this looks so good. This game looks incredible. It's just why am I gonna go explore and go do that thing? And it is such a cool looking world, but when you're on the street level and you're running around and you're like, it just feels a little bare. Like I remember, with like the glider, grapple hook, definitely helps around getting around, and I think it's obviously built for that. But this kind of reminds me a lot of when you're playing the Arkham games, and it's awesome to fly around, but then the second that you're on the street level, which, to be fair, I'd rather use my parkour with the game's built around. Which, by the way, the world, if you're rooftop to rooftop, is great. Like how the world is crafted to use the parkour mechanics is incredible, and I will say that going from rooftop to rooftop in different ways you can do it does feel awesome. But when you're down there on the ground level on the streets, it feels bare. And I said it kind of feels like when the Arkham games, when you're walking around and you're like, there's no one here. And I also feel like the zombies aren't as much of a threat as I would say in the first game. But in the first one, you'd have the normal zombies, and then you'd have those ones that just chase after you. I don't think I had a single one that chased after me and caught up to me, and I had to actually fight it. And I don't think I ran into that at all. You do face a lot more people, obviously, like the renegades and the different factions throughout. I think that was cool. I just when I want to play a zombie game, I kind of want to face zombies most of the time. I also didn't have a single gun through the entire gameplay, and I don't know. I think that was on by design, but I didn't have a single gun. I didn't shoot a single bullet throughout this entire game, and that's a choice. I think it would have been refreshing to, I don't know, find something throughout, whether that's in a story mission and then you get weapons later on in the late game. I think that's definitely a choice to just go melee combat, which felt great. I will say, I do feel like the first game parkour wise felt better, but this game actual melee mechanics was a ton better in this game. And also the blood splatter was super cool. The dismemberment was a welcome feature because it's just super brutal when you can take someone's head off and it just gushes until they fall to the ground. Super, super interesting and cool to see. Let's talk about the story here, because in the first game, obviously, story wasn't amazing, but at least there was something to it. And it was, I mean, you can kind of run through it and beat it pretty fast. I feel like with this game, the structure of it was, let's prolong this ending for as long as possible. And you really start to weave in between all these different factions. But you kind of don't really go anywhere with these factions. It's in my opinion, you can make decisions, but the decisions in your dialogue always kind of circles back to the same decision. Like you can be like, "Oh, ask about this. Go this way." And then you will, and then the dialogue will push you, the person will push you back, and then you need to eventually choose that option. So you kind of have this false sense of decision making in this game, and I felt like, oh, I want to go do this. I think this is a good route. I want to take the story, but then you get bounced back in dialogue to then have to select that other choice. That's disappointing for me. You kind of have this false sense of an RPG, a false sense of choice throughout this game, and nothing that you really do matters because it's going to point you in the direction that it wants to point you. I think playing throughout this game and the different factions, the story gets very convoluted and fetch questy, where, I mean, even towards the last little bit of the game, Matt Jack is like, oh, I need you to go. Hey, man, I know you just did this thing. You ran around the whole map to turn on these antennas and the whole grid and everything that, but I need you to do at least 2 more antennas. And it's like, dude, come on. And same thing with like, how many times where just the finish part of the dialogue, you basically need to like chase Lawan. You'll catch up to her, and then more dialogue happens, and then she'll run away, and then you catch up with her, and then more dialogue, and it's like, dude, can you just like tell me the thing I need to do or no? And I think it's just such an overwhelming dialogue heavy BS because you're not learning a lot from it. It's cool as a character builder, but Lawan as a character is very not interesting because everything that you're hoping that you're doing, which is good, she just fights back and does the opposite. And it's just, how many hours do I need to go through that to just not like this character? I think I felt that with a lot of characters where there's no one that that I left this story being like, that was worth it, that I fought for that person for a good reason, outside of maybe Veronica. In one of the cutscenes, that Lawan wasn't Lawan. Lawan's character was like a random NPC. I'll show this to you. While I'm talking about it. Tell me this isn't weird. I mean, that's not Lawan. I don't, and I didn't change anything, didn't do anything. It just popped up as like a normal character that I didn't know, but had the voice of Lawan. The subtitle said Lawan, so I don't know what that was about either. But and yeah, I don't know. I just think like playing throughout the story, the actual story of you chasing down Mia got really intertwined with a lot of other stuff that like I just didn't care about. And when it's hours and hours and hours and hours, I mean, I probably beat this game in, I don't know, 15, maybe under 20 for sure. But to basically have the story of like, oh, I'm chasing my sister, and then you're on this quest then to turn on the power for like 5 hours. I'm like, wait, aren't I here for my sister? It just gets lost over and over and over again with these different factions. Yeah, the main story gets lost, which I think the first one knew what it was and didn't overdo it. This, it felt like the map was too big and they wanted to basically turn this into an Assassin's Creed where it's big open map, not very polished or filled, but then there's different factions that'll take you to these different parts and we'll do different missions and you'll understand the factions. But then like I said, there's no point of factions when you can't really truly side with any of them. You make maybe 1 or 2 to 3 decisions throughout the entire game that I think felt important, that actually changed anything. If you give me the option, give me the option. You know, Fallout 3, I can blow up Tenpenny Tower. I can blow up Megaton. You know, those are like lasting things that happen. And I think like this, it was very much like, it doesn't matter. I think if I chose the other thing, the other options, it's probably going to happen the same way. They try to be, I think, too smart with the story. When it came to Mia and when it came to Waltz, it just felt like, okay, you see him over and over again. You're running away from him time over time, and then you're hunting him down. Yeah, you're like, oh, I need to get to him. It's like, dude, you had him. You were there. You had him. And I think they try to outsmart the player with who he is or who you are and who Mia is, where I mean, hours before I'm like, yeah, I mean, I 100% know what this is. Like, that's Mia's dad, which means that's my dad, I think. Still kind of unsure because he never, I mean, he calls you son once, but it doesn't explain if it's like, if you and me are actual siblings, which I think you are. But like he never goes like, yeah, she's like, that's my daughter and you're my son. He goes, oh, that's my daughter. So I don't know. Overall, I think the game was fine. I like the parkour elements. I like zombies. I wish this game was half as long as it was. and gave me real choice and consequences. And I think Lawan's character, I mean, her story also doesn't really connect with, because she said she was one of like the test subjects as well when she was a kid, but then her story really never connects with them. So, and then Williams, you don't know Williams at all. The butcher, like you don't know him at all. You run into him, you meet him once, and then it's over. It's like the guy that you kind of hyped up this whole game. Literally, you have like a conversation as he's pointing a gun at you, and then you just go like, "Well, let's work together to blah 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 blah," and then he's like, "Oh, okay, yeah, cool. He's over here," and it's like, "What?" I walked away, and I'm like, and he's like, "Yeah, good luck," and it's like, "You were just pointing a gun at me." Like, I, I don't know. It felt odd, man. That I feel like some of the characters were very undercooked, underdeveloped, and parts of the game I felt like should have been more fleshed out weren't, and the parts of the game that I was like I don't really care about were super fleshed out or expanded. Overall, guys, I was really happy to finish this game because I didn't want to play the game anymore. I felt it was too long, and it get to the point where I was like, the last like 4 hours, I was like, please just let me run through this game and beat it. And that sucks. That really does suck. I will be playing the Beast at some point, but I think I'm kind of burnt out. This game kind of burnt me out from Dying Light after having such a great time replaying Dying Light 1. Hopefully, the Beast is better because I just didn't really find my time worth it with this game because of the length, the convoluted story, and the lack of interest in characters. So, all right, guys, that's my thoughts on Dying Light 2. If you guys enjoyed it, didn't like it, let me know. I'm interested to hear. Till next time, like, subscribe. See you guys later.